I have been living my life, and everything in my impression of myself and perception of myself and my experience has been, I would say, 80 to 90% just beyond my wildest dreams. This week, I was given evidence that by a physician that I am not vibrating in the way I had thought. And I'm very confused. So in formulating my question, I don't even want to go over what the background of things are. But from where I'm at right now, I need some reassurance. I need some understanding and information.
Well, it is not a comfortable thing to think that you're vibrating one way and to have evidence that says something different. However, we think that it is not as terrible as you think that it is, because everything that we're talking about here is about finding that point of desire and finding alignment between. So as you're talking about how you thought you were in alignment, things have been going very well. How much thought about your physical body has been part of your thought process? In other words, has this been an issue before?
For myself, I would say that my physical health is very important, and much of my focus is on, or that some of my focus is on being a healthy person. And I'm a healer. I help people that are very ill. Some of my confusion is in that helping others, am I drawing illness towards myself?
Well, we would put it into different terms. We would say it takes a very clear person to be in the presence of and listening to and focused upon people who are in the moment not well. It takes a very clear vibration to not be affected to some extent by that.
Yes.
But it takes a very clear person to live in this physical world and not be affected by that, because there is such a strong river about this subject. And the thing that we are wanting most to give you is reassurance that you're asking for in all ways, but especially in the sense that it does not matter where I stand temporarily, because all that does is give me a new measurement of bringing myself into balance. You've heard us say that the contrast gives birth to a rocket of desire. And once that rocket of desire is out there, now you have faster moving energy, first of all, and greater, keener awareness, much sharper realization of whether you are a vibrational match to it or not. In other words, you could be offering vibrations all over the place relative to the subject of your physical body and have no idea what you're doing, because the energy isn't focused specifically enough to give you a very clear reading. So you're getting the sense of what we are talking about here. Don't let any place that you're standing frighten you. All it is a byproduct of some energy alignment, which only gives you stronger clarity about what you want, and most importantly, greater sensitivity about whether you're in the receiving mode or locked off of it, you see. So, ramble with us a little bit about the subject of physical well-being, and let us help you to feel whether you're in the locked-on receiving mode or not. In other words, just ramble. Don't try to offer words necessarily that you think Abraham wants to hear. Just sort of speak about the way you feel relative to life, food, body, health. Just sort of ramble a little bit. First, let us say to you, this is not an exercise where we're going to say, there it is, there's the very reason, that is the justification for where you stand. That's not what this is about. This is about you recognizing maybe some things that you weren't even aware of, and then feeling how easy it is to soften them. It is so much easier than you ever know to just go softly from that not receiving mode into the receiving mode. In other words, it's never something big. This is the thing that we want you to hear, because it feels like when you get news from a physician that is not what you want to hear, the tendency is to say, oh my God, how did I get so far away from something I want so much? And we say, it isn't big like that at all. It's just a series of little things. It's a series of little things. In this same hotel room, the year before, sound had been an issue. The group in the room next door was making a whole lot of racket, and the air walls didn't seal well. Mm-hmm. And so when Jana made the appointment with the hotel, she let them know that sound had been an issue and they wanted a quiet room. You can feel the beginning of that. It was an issue with Jerry and Esther. In other words, they were all a part of the vibration. They signed a contract for a nice big meeting room, and then a few weeks before the event, the hotel called and said, "We know that sound is an issue for you, and we have put a trade show in the other part of the ballroom next door to you. Might be a bit noisy, so we're moving you to another part of the hotel." And Janice said, "That's good." And then, as she called the final count-in, the 3 days before the event, the woman said, "Oh, that's too many people for the room we've put you in." And Janice said, "Well, you cannot move us to a smaller room. We have more people." And the woman said, "It's already done, and I can't undo it." And so it turned out that there was enough space, very close space, for everyone that arrived. But now Esther and Jerry are in the hotel, and a very close-together group, and now she is on the segment of refreshment, walking down the hallway, and she sees the room that was their room, great big room, with tables all around the border and 14 people in the room. And Esther looked in the doorway, and she said to Jerry, "That's just not right." And then she said, "I'm doing it now, aren't I?" In other words, she could feel herself not in the receiving mode. It's not bigger than that. In other words, it's just softly giving your attention to things that you don't want, feeling the grumble that comes forth. It's not bigger than that. It's just doing it on a pretty regular basis and not knowing that you're doing it. That's why we are giving great emphasis to the art of allowing. Am I in the receiving mode or not? So you're not looking for big things. So just ramble a little bit about life.
My life is, I am amazingly energetic. I have a huge body of energy. In fact, most people that meet me or around me say to me, "You have an enormous amount of energy." I can go over the top with the energy. It sometimes feels stressful to me, like I have
Now what that
so
means,
strong desires.
now what that means is, so what you're saying is, I have huge energy or I have huge desire, but when I feel this stress, what that means is I'm focused upon something that's not letting this huge energy flow.
Right. Or finding place for it to flow. You know, I might have 20 things going at once.
Well,
and I love it.
It's not your job to find a place for it to flow in this sense. Your asking has already found the place for it to flow. You have identified the place for it to flow, and the universe is flowing it to those places. The only question is, are you in the receiving mode? So when you say things like, "I don't have time," or "I don't know what to do," or it's those moment to moment, what's your day like?
Busy.
When you said the word busy, did you mean busy like I'm vital, I'm alive, life force is flowing through me? Or did you mean busy in the sense that I have a bit more to do than I really have time to do? In other words, when you use the word busy, was it a happy bit? Because Jerry is busy. And Esther is busy. Jerry has been editing tapes for many, many years. And now Esther, thanks to friends from this gathering last year, acquainted Esther with the computer and an editing program in the computer. So now Esther is helping with the editing of the tapes. And she was so pleased about it because she has seen Jerry spending 20 and 30 hours making a tape because he is using recorders rather than computers. So it wasn't a visual thing. Very cumbersome. And now Esther can see things on the screen, and so it has trimmed the editing down to about 5 hours. Mm-hmm. And she thought, I am going to give my love life. I'm going to give him all of these hours back. But he just turned right around and found something else to do in those same hours. He still gets up in the middle of the night. He still is up before the sun every morning. He still carries things with him everywhere he goes. He still takes your letters and reads them in the car everywhere they go. In other words, he never stops. He's busy. He's busy. He's busy. But it is not busy. It is busy. It is life-giving. Love this. Can't get enough of this. Don't want to sleep. Want to do this every waking hour. Want to do this many sleeping hours. Want to do this. I am busy. While Esther is busy. In other words, there is a difference between busy and busy. In other words, Esther is busy sometimes. Busy. You get this. So what would you say? Are you busy or are you busy?
I think it moves around. I think sometimes I'm busy and I'm totally loving every moment of it. I'm thinking about my patients. I get up, I take care of the dogs. I have all these things to do. You know, hug my husband, lug my things, you know, running to help.
Well, that sounds a little bit more like busy than busy.
Well, it does, except my general feeling tone is yippee. I love what I do. This is great. But there are some times when I wish I could just throw on a swimsuit and go sit in hot water somewhere.
So what you're wanting to do
And
is,
balance it.
you see, it's not about throwing on a swimsuit and going and sitting in hot water. It's not about doing that. It's about feeling the soft resentment and then stopping and reminding yourself, you're in charge, these are your choices, do I really want to do this? Why am I doing this? What is the true motivation behind this? Until you bring yourself in that moment back to the realization that there is nothing that you would rather do. We see Esther do that. She will find herself sometimes involved in an activity. They are traveling in their motor coach, and around them are people in campgrounds that are playing, taking tours, taking walks, and sometimes as Esther is working there and looking out and seeing all of them playing, for a moment she'll think, I should be in the hot tub, and then she will stop and remind herself, we can do anything that we choose to do. We are making these decisions, and within 3 or 4 sentences, she brings herself back into alignment with her own desire. And so that's the thing that we're wanting to call your attention to. It's mild resentment or mild frustration or mild overwhelmment. It doesn't have to be big. It's just this sort of steady tension that keeps you from, and we say to you that this diagnosis is not more significant than that either. It's just a representation of what you've been feeling that you weren't allowing yourself to feel until now. It's sort of like the speakers have to be squealing before you admit your sound system isn't adequate. It's sort of like, as long as you can get by, as long as it's passable fare, it's sort of like there are bigger issues to deal with. Isn't that what you say? Don't sweat the small stuff, just sweat the big stuff. We say don't sweat any of the stuff. Right. Whether you're sweating big stuff or little stuff, you're still sweating, which means you're not in vibrational harmony with allowing. It's not big, it's little. And as you just begin paying attention, the thing that we would ask, if we were walking in your shoes, we would ask ourselves on a regular basis, because we can feel that that is the issue. We don't think you have worthiness issues. We don't think that your issues are big stressful issues. We don't think it's any bigger than that. Now, you touched on something earlier that we do want to comment on a little bit, and that is in your practice. Talk to us a little bit about what your day is like there.
It varies from day to day. Some of my work is with children that have neurological differences. And I spend a great deal of attention using this body of work to help heal children that everyone else is seeing as deficient or defective.
Yes. And you like that, don't you?
Oh, I love it.
It's rewarding. And so what else goes on? When you ask about, is it possible that in your healing work, that working with people who are in this moment not well, could that be negatively affecting you? And we do not feel that that is a factor. We don't feel that it's your actual interplay with your patients that is at the heart of your stress. So tell us about the other aspects of your work.
The advocacy work that I do. I work with teens, and so I will go into the school and advocate for them when they don't have the language to advocate for themselves. So I try to mediate between teachers and students. I try to educate about why this is hard for, it's like sort of explaining differences that are
well, there's a much more tension within that, because you've tapped in. Now think about what's happening in your nation today. In that work, you've tapped in to the most significant stream of discord that exists, and it is around the subject of freedom. Everyone is born knowing that they are free, and these kids are wanting freedom in the strongest sense, and you are relating to them on all levels, and then you are close up to them, watching them in this unfree place. And that experience is literally tearing you apart. 99% of the time, you are siding, you are understanding and relating to this freedom-seeking child, but you are working in a system that's got its mind all made up about the way things should be. So what's happening is, as you are guiding these kids, sort of wanting to smooth the waters, what you're really, in essence, doing is patting the children on the head. They're not children, but the children on the head, and saying, we just have to let them be the way they are because they don't know better. Now, let us be clear about this. You're saying to the children, we have to let these adults play the game that they're playing because they don't know better. And it's a bigger game than you and I can do anything about right now. And we feel that there's a strong frustration within you about that.